committed to providing you with excellent orthopedic care. Visit us online at getmovingwithpoa.com.
All right, welcome back to the Dan Scott Show on this Tuesday, post-Memorial Day. I hope you took the time to reflect on what Memorial Day really means in this country, and not just the beginning of summer and the cooking and the grill outs and everything else that goes along with it. My wife and I enjoyed a little day trip yesterday and had a great time, but I just hope you took the time to pause and remember those who gave their lives to make what we do here possible. I get to have fun doing a job I love because of the freedoms we have that many, many people who have gone on well before me gave their lives to defend. So I don't take that lightly, and I hope you don't either. As we come to the end of this abbreviated edition of the program today, I did this briefly at the end of the broadcast on Sunday when everything was said and done and the Paladins had been eliminated in the winner-take-all championship game. But invariably, you start to think, did I thank everybody? Is there something I could have said? And you always think you can do it better. So having the platform to do it, I'm going to try to do it a little bit better. And I've actually made some notes this time. First things first, just the season itself, the players and everything that goes into making a season. It has been one of the most exacerbating and one of the most enjoyable seasons that I've ever been associated with at the same time. And in my 6 years now here at Furman, I would rank this one at the top of all six, because of everything this team went through and how they rebounded and made the run that they made. Look, this is a special group, and this is a special coaching staff. And in the grand scheme of things, this team is going to be looked at, I believe, as a standard bearer for what the Furman baseball program is going to become in the future. Brett Harker has talked about that many, many times, and I believe that the foundation has been laid where a losing season simply is not acceptable, that the administration understands that, the support that's necessary that this program needs is going to be there, and that the players who are coming in now are going to have a standard that they're going to have to live up to. And this team, I think, is going to be the one that's going to be looked back on that set that standard. This senior group that is leaving is going to have the knowledge that they're the ones who set the bar here, that this is the absolute minimum that's acceptable in this program. We expect you to go here and here and here, but this is the standard. You don't fall below this line. And to that group, I can't tell you how much fun it has been to cover you from the time you walked onto campus. I mean, how can you not sit back and scratch your head in amazement at what this group has accomplished and the perseverance that they've had, the unlikelihood of a kid like Carter Grote coming onto the program as an unknown walk-on, so unknown and so happy to be here that he didn't even speak up in the fall get-together when someone had misspelled his name Crater on his name tag that freshman season. And therefore, he had a brand new nickname that stuck with him all 4 years. That kid that walked onto that campus as a freshman that under the radar leaves this program having an award named after him. An award that will be given every year to the player who most closely epitomizes playing this game the way it's supposed to be played. Nothing to do with stats, everything to do with going about your business the way you're supposed to do as a baseball player and as a student athlete. It's just phenomenal. Name me another program in the country who announced they were naming an award after a player who was still playing. I don't know that it's ever happened before. That's Carter Grote. Sky Overton, a young man who, marches to the beat of his own drummer, but in his own way became one of the leaders of this program. And you watch the jubilation when he hit that home run in the bottom of the 8th inning against UNCG in the game the Paladins won Sunday that forced the final game. There was no intent to showboat. There was no intent to rub in anything on Greensboro. This is a young man who truly loves what he's doing, and it may take you a while to get to know him and understand, but watching him round the bases, you saw all of that not just bubble to the surface, but explode like a volcano. And I could go down the line talking about each and every one of these kids individually. Matthew Quarles, just the put on your hard hat, the lunch pail, go to work every single day. All of these guys individually and collectively make up this group that has helped set the standard for this program. Cam Whitehead, the injuries that he overcame in his career and came back in the second half of this season in the final 30 games and have the year that he had when it would have been easier just to roll over and say, oh, well, I've done everything I can do. I mean, you can find stories right down the line, on and on and on. It's a group that is as memorable than the grade 8 that graduated last year. They were a bunch of characters, the Stephen Fondues and Harry Normans of the world. And not that these guys weren't characters in their own right, but they were a different group. It was a more low-key, let's go to work and get things done kind of group. And to watch them mature over 4 years, to watch the legacy now that they've left unfold during that time and manifest itself here in 2017 has been an absolute privilege for me. And it may sound strange for a 50-year-old guy to say that about a bunch of college baseball players, but I'm a big picture guy. And I know what they've done is going to lay the foundation for the extreme success that's coming in this baseball program in the future. There were a lot of people before them. A lot of people before them that had things to do with that foundation. But this group, I personally believe, is the one that's come in, has put the final brick in that foundation and said, now, as I said a minute ago, here's the standard. You don't go below this, you only go further. And it's just been incredible to watch over 4 years how this group, again, has grown and matured. And I feel very privileged to have had a front row seat for it. There's a number of people I'd like to thank, starting with Brett Harker. I kidded him before the season started, asking him if he was ready to have to deal with me on a daily basis. And he said, I'm looking forward to it. Let's go. I think that he still felt that way at the end of the season. I can't say 100% for sure. But he obviously is doing things he'd never done before. And when I do this job, I try to do it right. And that's a pregame show every game, win or lose the previous game. He did it. Asking him on this show through the course of the season. He did it. His own radio show 6 Mondays during the course of the season. He did it. And he always did it with an enthusiasm that was infectious. He always did it with a smile, and he never, ever once mailed it in. And I can't say that about every coach that I've ever worked with. I think he learned a lot of that from Ron Smith. Obviously, he's learned a lot of that from other coaches he's seen over the years. And as a broadcaster, I can promise you that not every coach is like that. So to Brett, I say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because while I'm sure that there were times you didn't want to do the interviews, or you may not have wanted to answer some of the questions that I might have asked, you did it all. You did it professionally. And I think in the end, it helped narrate the story of this 2017 season. Brother, I appreciate the access and look forward to doing it all again come 2018. To his staff, Taylor Harbin, Caleb Davis, Jeff Kimmel, again, the access, the ability to talk to those guys behind the scenes, kind of get into their heads a little bit on what they were thinking, or what the scouting report here may be, or what the plan may be with this this pitching rotation, or this pitching plan, or maybe moving hitters here, or defensive alignment there. Their willingness to share, their willingness to talk with me, the conversations that we had in the front of the bus on those 5, 6, 8 hour bus trips that sometimes bordered on the ridiculous, but were things that, well, that you do, that only guys who are cooped up on a bus for that length of time together would understand. And for them to include me in that as the broadcaster and not a member of the staff is also something that I say thank you for. I've known Taylor for a long time, gotten to know him a little bit better personally the last 2 years that he's been on staff. My first year getting to work with and know Caleb and Jeff, and guys, all of you, thank you very much. Hunter Reed, best in the business. I have been privileged to work in my 13 years as a Division I broadcaster with the two guys that I consider to be the standard bearer. Tim Beret at Clemson, Hunter Reed here at Furman. And I have said this a number of times in the past. When you're in my business and you travel and you go do games, you want to see other teams treat opposing teams and media in a first-class manner. And I always qualify that by saying first class is not the same everywhere, because first class at Clemson and their budget is not the same as first class at Furman and its budget, which is not the same as first class, say, at Presbyterian College and its budget. You do the best with what you have. And I've been fortunate to work for two of the best. Hunter is a guy that if I say, Hunter, I'd like to know what this particular guy hits on a Tuesday before 4 p.m. and after 4 p.m. when the humidity is such and such and the forecast was calling for rain and we had a cloud covering X number of miles high in the sky, I would get multiple pages printed out. Everything that I needed to make it sound like I knew what I was talking about, Hunter Reed was able to provide me. Not only that, we're kindred souls as far as our love for the game of baseball, and we have a lot of fun in that press box going back and forth at one another. He's a Braves fan. I'm a Reds fan, so we've got that to pick at one another with. But the bottom line is guys like Hunter Reed make my job a lot more easy, a lot more enjoyable, a lot easier. I say all the time, when Hunter comes in and he hands me this big stack of stuff and all the game breakdowns and everything else that I may only use a portion of in the course of a broadcast, I always tell him, well, now I've got no excuse. I've got all the information that I need. If the broadcast fails, it's because it's on me. Hunter, I can't thank you enough for your friendship and for your help in each and every game, each and every baseball season. For Mike Buddy, the athletic director, for allowing me to continue to pursue this passion of mine once I was hired as the director of broadcasting. It's one thing to do it as a freelance guy, but to do it as a director of broadcasting, for him to allow me to continue to do it and follow this team around, I thank you, sir. Your understanding of the game of baseball, I'm sure, played a big role in it. And look, I don't say this as, for any personal gain or pride or anything like that, but I do take pride in what we have built here. When I came onto the scene 6 years ago, they were only doing 6 radio broadcasts a year, and that was it, nothing else. And I pushed to say, hey, if nothing else, let's do the games on the internet. So the first 2 years we did the conference games on the internet. And then the next year it morphed into doing all of the games. The last 2 years we've been able to add over-the-air radio. And we continue to build, and the listenership continues to grow. The numbers during this past Southern Conference tournament, off the charts. It was unbelievable, some of the things we were able to see from our Facebook Live, from our folks who were listening on the Furman website via Stretch Audio. And that doesn't even take into account the people who were listening over the air on the Campus FM and Fox Sports 1440 when they were able to join us. So, Mike, I appreciate you allowing me to continue to pursue that passion. And I got to go back to Brett Harker just for a second. I couldn't have pursued that passion on the road if they hadn't agreed to continue the tradition Ron Smith sat down going back 6 years, and that is incorporating me into the traveling budget and basically putting me on scholarship when we're on the road, taking care of my room and my meals so I could go do each and every game. And the point I'm making in all this, in the Southern Conference, Furman is the only school that does that. Furman is the only school, broadcast-wise, that treats baseball like the other sports, that treats baseball like it's treated in the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, and all of these other major conferences. Furman is the only school that sends a broadcaster on the road for every single game. And the coaches have been able to take that and use that as one of their tools in recruiting. And the big picture is that it's only going to get bigger and it's only going to get more popular. It's got nothing to do with me, but it's got everything to do with people here understanding that that's how it works. And then the listenership growing and the sponsorship growing. It's been phenomenal to see from the very beginning where we were 6 years ago to how it's grown now. And I'm truly, truly humbled by the overwhelming response we continue to get. So again, I want to thank Coach Harker. I want to thank Mike Buddy for allowing that to happen. My wife, Angela, who becomes a baseball widow once February rolls around, and has come to understand that that's going to happen. And I who knows, maybe she looks forward to it. The old joke that you walk out of the house in February as a broadcaster or a baseball player and say, honey, I'll see you in our case 3 months, or in the big leagues, I'll see you in 6 months. And she says, great, love you, call before you come home. Obviously that's not the case here, but she has been a rock for me, understands how much I love my job, has become accustomed to spending weekends alone, even though I know she doesn't like it, but still fully supports me in pursuing something that I love. And they say behind every good man is an even better woman, and I am living proof of that. I love you, baby. To the parents of these Furman baseball players, to say that what happens here is unique would be a vast understatement, because the support that this parental group gives this baseball team, the way they support these coaches, is unlike anything that I've ever seen. And they do it, many of them knowing that their sons are most likely not going to get into a game and may not get into more than 5 or 6, 8 games all season long. That's just the way it is in college baseball. You're not in high school anymore. You're not the star of your high school team anymore. You're coming up against guys who are as good or better than you, and you have to compete for positions. And sometimes in college you have to wait your turn, and your turn may never come. And this parental group that's here, in spite of that, has been able to, for the most part, shove that aside. And they support this team more than any I have ever seen. And inside of the framework of this program, what they provide, the way they feed the team, the way they do special little things for the coaches and their families, it's something, again, that makes this whole Furman family thing more than just an idea. It makes it a fact. Michelle Griffith is the one who normally heads up all of that, and I know she's got many, many people who help her, but she's taken on the responsibility of kind of being the front person for the parents group, and she has done such phenomenal work. She was actually honored at the end of season banquet, which she should have been, because of the time and the effort, and I'm sure the expense that she puts into it as well. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say publicly that what you guys have meant to Angela and I, you'll probably never know the extent, but we do. And from the bottom of my heart, I say thank you again. And finally, to the listeners, none of this would be possible without you, our listeners and our sponsors. Jumping on board a baseball program that doesn't have the sexy resume over the long term as Clemson or South Carolina, or pick the school, but in this part of the country, those are the two big ones. And supporting quote-unquote little old Furman, I think, is beginning to more than pay dividends. And so for our sponsors, the Atlanta Bread Company chiefly, who's made a lot of what we do possible, my good friend Jeff Massey, thank you so much for jumping on board with us. John at the Hungry Drover, your sponsorship and your friendship has meant more than you'll ever know. And over time, all of those who have been on board with us in a big or small way, all of your contributions are greatly, greatly appreciated. But mostly to you listeners, we do what we do here because of you. And I always joke, if you bring a radio to the game, that you get a double header, the one you're watching and the one I'm calling. And sometimes there's some truth to that, especially when you get a little punch drunk, like we were at the Southern Conference tournament a couple of times this weekend. But the one thing that I've never forgotten, actually there are two things about radio I've never forgotten. One goes back to the old days of radio in the pre-television days, but I still think it is appropriate for today, that radio, when done right, is the theater of the mind. And the other thing is that as a broadcaster, you are the eyes of your listeners. And I know that there's video that goes along with most of what we do now. I still do the broadcast as a radio broadcast because we have radio on board with us. I hope in some way the narration has helped make the season and the previous seasons a little more pleasurable for you. I know I don't have as much fun doing anything else as I do baseball. And I told somebody this, a matter of fact, it was Price Atkinson, who by the way, kind of caught me off guard with just a very nice photo and tweet from the SoCon tournament over the weekend. But I told him when we were talking about doing what I do, and I'm like everybody else. I spent a lot of time wanting to be a ladder climber, wanting to go as high as I could go in this business, and there were a lot of mistakes that I made, and a lot of people, especially after I became a Christian, that I had to go back and apologize to, because I let, on a couple of occasions at least, my passion for the job get overcome by greed for wanting more, and I had to issue some apologies. But, as I told Price, I said it's a few years ago, I just decided, you know what? I'm going to quit worrying about if I'm any good or not. I'll let other people debate that. And I know there are people who say, yes, you are. And I know there are people out there who say, man, you are terrible, because I hear from them virtually every broadcast on both sides. But I told Price, I said, I'm going to quit worrying about that. And all I'm going to do is have fun. Because baseball is my passion. I love the other sports, especially what I've been able to do here at Furman. But anybody who knows me and have known me since I was a kid, baseball has been the one constant in my life since I was 8 years old. And so that's over 40 years now. And I can't believe I just uttered that line, because in many ways I still feel like that 8-year-old. That's how much I love this game. And that's why it always takes me a while to get over the end of a season. To think that I'm not going to go behind the mic to do another baseball game until the beginning of 2018 hurts. It really does. But I'll get over it. I always do. And 2018 is not all that far away. But I'm lucky to do what I do, and I don't take that for granted. I quit worrying about, as I said, whether I'm any good or not, and I just have fun. And I hope in some small way that attitude permeates its way through the broadcast. Really, whether it's baseball or football or basketball, that's my attitude. Quit worrying about what others think. The only person that really matters is the athletic director, and if he's happy with you, go about your business, son. Do your job, have fun, and hope that translates. If nothing else, after all this is said and done, that's my hope, that my fun and my passion for this game and this program has translated in some small way to you, the listener and the viewer of Furman Baseball. And I hope along the way in this tournament we picked up some new folks along the lines as well, who will be with us for broadcasts to come. So for all of these people, and I'm sure I forgot somebody, I just wanted to take the time to say thank you, because this is it's a collaborative effort. Yeah, I do most of the time 9 innings by myself. Thank God I had Tom Van Hoy with me this weekend. Tom and I are great friends, and I wish his schedule would allow him to share the booth with me every game, home and on the road, but it doesn't. And yeah, I'm very particular about who I put in the booth with me. I admit that. But if Tom could be there, Tom would be there all 56 in the postseason. I thank him for doing it pro bono this weekend, simply because he has a passion for the game like I do. But I hope that passion comes through. If nothing else, I hope that's what you take away from all of this, that I love what I do, and I'm doing it for you. Not for me, which I couldn't always say, but now I can honestly say that I'm doing it for all of you out there. That's going to wrap it up. I appreciate your time, appreciate your putting up with this today, but I did want to get through this because it's important to me to say thank you to all of these people, because look, if it wasn't for Brett taking me in, as I said, and putting me quote unquote on scholarship, we'd just be doing the home games, and that would only be telling half the story. I'm thankful that I get a chance to tell the whole story, and that I get to share it with you on a game-by-game basis. We'll start it all over again come football season. But until then, we've got this show, and we'll be keeping you up to date on all the things going on with Furman and the Southern Conference, and during the summer especially, branching out into a lot more things. I think you're going to be hearing a lot about Major League Baseball on the show moving forward as well. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, planning on the full hour, and then on Thursday, Billy Davis will join us as our guest. Until then, I am Dan Scott, saying thank you all for tuning in. God bless you, and so long, everybody.